Now it's on record that it is Tilson Live. So I know for a fact, Dawn, that we have lots and lots and lots of people joining us today. So we want to give a little bit of time for people to join on. But I am Eric Allerid with Tilson Homes, part of the fourth generation and Senior Vice President of Business Development. And I'm joined, as we are every week, by Dawn Dantzler.
Hi, everybody.
Dawn is our Director of Marketing. Oh, yes, she's very delighted. So all the beautiful things that y'all see, by the way, she doesn't get enough credit, but all the beautiful things you see on our Facebook page and our website and Instagram, Dawn and her team, Nick and Kelsey, that's what they do. That's all them. We don't outsource that stuff. That is our team doing that. So thanks, Dawn. Thanks for doing that.
Well, we're just showing off everything beautiful that the rest of the team has done. So
that's true.
It's a joy. We're really excited.
So we have some thick, heavy material to cover today. We are going to be talking about what in the world has to be done to my land to get it ready to build a home out in the middle of nowhere. And how is that any different from any other house being built? Where did we come up with this idea? Did people ask for this?
People did ask for it. It comes up a lot because this tends to be the area where build on your lot and what you do with Tilson is the most different from any experience you've had building a home before, because there's just a lot more. This is all the stuff, folks, that if you're buying in a typical neighborhood, it's all happened before you even arrive on the scene and you go into a sales center.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's what we're going to talk about, the kind of the divergence that it takes from production subdivision home that you traditionally built, which has its place in everyone's life cycle, to building a home on your own land, particularly out in a rural area. So we're going to talk about the things that maybe the developer did and the builder did on the front end in that production subdivision, like Dawn said, before you were even shopping for where you wanted to be. Juxtapose that with what you're going to need to be doing. So we know we're going to have a lot of questions. We want folks to start posting them in the chat now. I know Kelsey and Nick are going to help moderate that. Dawn, of course, will be moderating it. I'm not going to moderate it. I'm not really the moderating type. But we are going to answer all of your questions as much as we can today. So we definitely want to get to all your questions. We want to help everybody that we can. So let's get started on what do we need to do to develop your land to build a home and whose responsibility is what. So a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a very brief Tilson history, just so that you believe that we are who we say we are. We know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about what is built on your land and how is it different from production subdivision and what should my expectations be. What are some of the different pre-construction responsibilities? And you're saying, well, I'm hiring you. You're the builder. It's your responsibility. And while that's true to a great degree, because it is, in fact, your land, there's some things we kind of need you to do because there's things we can't do because we don't own it. What are some of the important documents? How do we get utilities out there? What about access? How do we even drive onto it? And, of course, the site planning and the preparation. So we're not going to be talking a lot about the actual construction today, although some of the preliminary stuff, but we're going to be talking a whole lot about the things that need to be done to get your land ready for construction. So let's get this started. If you don't know who we are already, we are a fourth generation family owned and operated on your land rural custom builder. So we specifically operate in Texas. We build all over the state. About a family a day moves into a Tilson home. That'll definitely be more than that this coming year. We were founded in 1932 by Jack Tilson and Horace Tilson. And we have built over 40,000 homes across this great state of Texas. 91% of what we build is rural. So outside of an incorporated city. And so built on your lot. What does your lot mean? Okay, well, the biggest thing is you own the property or you're in the process of buying the property. The property does not necessarily have to be paid off, but you do need to own the property or be entitled to the property. And so it could mean your lot, it could be land, farm, ranch, retirement, lake, but the biggest thing is that it's your land. And so we're going to need you, the landowner, to help us through a lot of this process. So in certain cases, for instance, kind of a foreshadowing, a little sneak peek here. power companies, they usually want like a 15 to 30 foot wide utility easement to bring power onto your property. In other words, you have to give them permission to set power poles or to even go underground necessarily to onto your land. People can't just do things on your land without your permission, and that's a good thing. That's what we want here in Texas. But in order to do that, you usually have to deed them over an easement. Tilson or your builder can't do that on your behalf because we don't own the land. So just something to get started with that. What are some of the other pre-construction responsibilities? So you gonna have to get an address, right? There's a lot of stuff that we can help with, but you as the owner of the property, there are some things that we are absolutely going to rely on you to do. The good news is we're very clear about that. We kind of give you a checklist, particularly at Stakeout. You're going to get a list of things to do. We'll talk about what that even means here in a minute. But 911 address. So a lot of you folks, if you haven't been living out on the property in some type of other structure next door that doesn't even have an address yet. Sometimes the county issues that address. Sometimes the power company actually issues that address. So we'll help you based on which county you're building in, where you get your address from, and how do you do the utility setups. Again, we won't be able to set up the water company account because, again, the land's not in our name. Same thing with the power company account. The land's not in our name. So you'll set the accounts up. We'll get it run to the house, once the meter's there, the tap is there, but you'll have to set those accounts up. Permit application. So again, we're going to pull the permits. You're not going to have to go pull those permits or do the work for them. But in many, many areas, particularly counties, the customer has to actually sign the application or sign the permit application. The landowner, whoever owns the land, has to sign that application. There's some places that'll let you do kind of a very limited power of attorney, and you'll give us permission to do that. And yeah, I see Daniel Rodriguez talking about driveway permit. Yeah, Harris County for sure requires a driveway permit. So a lot of counties require different things, and we can help you that every step of the way. And then there's going to be just some other responsibilities, such as clearing, so how we get the septic application done, who's doing the perk test for the septic system, if there's some kind of a subdivision or ACC or property owner association approval. You'll typically kind of have to help be our liaison to the POA because you are in fact the property owner in that property owners association. So we'll put all the paperwork and stuff together. We'll fill out all the application. We'll draw the site plan. We handle all that for you. But as far as who we communicate with, we'll need to get that information from you. Sometimes it's folks there in the actual subdivisions. Sometimes it's a property management company. We've worked with both kinds and we can handle it, but we'll need your help in finding that out. Now, this is going to be kind of a tedious part, but this is very necessary stuff. There are a lot of documents that have to be done prior to construction. A lot of people, Don, ask questions. What takes so long to get started, or why does it take 10 to 12 months or 14 months to build? And the reality is it doesn't take that long to build, but there's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen up front. These documents, utilities, site access, site plan and preparation. When you went, if you've built a home or bought a home in a production subdivision, in a master plan community, all of this stuff that you see on this slide was done long before you ever came in the picture. This was done long before the model home even showed up that you ended up, probably even before the sales trailer was carted in there. That the developer had already purchased the land. They bought 300 acres. They'd gone to planning and zoning at the county or the county commissioner's court or the city. They had paid a surveyor to subdivide all of that land. They paid an engineer to design how the drainage was going to work and how the roads were going to go in, how the utilities were going to be run for your water, your sewer, your electrical, natural gas, if you have that, how each lot was going to be cut up, what plan was going on which lot. The permits were already pulled, and dozer work was already done before you ever even drove into that setup, before they even marketed it. That was done. So that's why you go in there, it's 3, 4, maybe 5 months to build, and then you're in. None of this, in most of our cases for our customers, has been done, which is why you're buying this beautiful place, right? That's why you're buying this rural piece of property out away from where all this other stuff's happening. So we help you with all of this stuff, but it does take some time, some due diligence. So what are some of those documents that we're going to be looking at? Well, first of all, a deed. A deed is something that proves ownership. We'll get to that in a second. title insurance. We'll talk about that. A plat, a survey. In some cases, if a portion of the property is in the floodplain, you'll have to have an elevation certificate. We can show you what that looks like. There could be deed restrictions or something telling us what size home we need to build, how far back or setbacks, how close it can be to the road, how close it can be to the left or right side of the property, how close it can be to the back of the property, what type of masonry requirements may be required. So we're going to walk through all those kind of one at a time. And Don, maybe what I'll do is I'll go through a couple of these and we'll stop for questions. Does that work?
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. If Don says it sounds good, that's what we're doing. So first things first is a deed to the property. In our world of build on your land, it's really important that it be your land. So the deed is proof of ownership. It lists the grantor, which is whoever's selling you the property, and the grantee, which is whoever's buying it. Typically contains a property description. So in this case, it's this lot 21, block 7, New City Block, section 1. So, it gives you a legal description. If it doesn't show that, it could be down here, which is a 10-acre tract of this one. This is called a meets and bounds. And just it's a literary description of a physical piece of property. Anyway, all that's done, and most importantly, the seller's signature must be notarized and it must be recorded. Just comes someone writes and signs a deed, it doesn't mean anything until it's recorded at the county. Then it is a public record, and that's how the state of Texas works, and most of the United States. Title insurance. Man, this is one of the most important things. If you don't listen to any of the other stuff in this thing today, please always purchase title insurance, even if it's gift property. Go to a title company. They're there. Usually they're near the courthouse. They're in the county seat of whatever county you're in. They are an insurance company. And what they're doing is they're ensuring clear title to the property. So just because someone buys property and even pays it off completely, that does not necessarily guarantee that they have, in fact, clear title. In other words, until someone has researched the chain, and literally, if you looked at the links of a chain, every time that property is transferred, bought and sold, or given, it changes hands. That chain of title has to be clean all the way back. In other words, if someone died, was their will probated? Did all of their children's interests get divided up? Did they have any, former spouses, exes, things like that from previous marriages? Did they have any children from that? Did their interests get divided up properly? Were all the liens paid? Are there any judgments against the people? Did they own a small store in town and they didn't pay payroll taxes for 3 years and they have a federal tax lien against the property? All that will show up on a title search. And that just, it avoids any kind of disputes, judgments. And if you're borrowing money to do the house, you're going to have a title policy. And that's the first thing we're going to do is open title. And so really important on this is open title at a title company. It doesn't cost anything to open title. You only pay for title insurance when you go to close on a piece of real estate. And it's typically, depending on the dollar amount, between $1,200 and $2,500. And it's literally an insurance policy. That's what it's for. So if someone comes along down the way and says, oh, I have an undisputed claim to this property, and that turns out to be true, the title insurance company will turn around and make you, the owner of the policy, whole. They'll pay you for whatever the amount of the policy is, which is typically the mortgage amount, the value amount. So really, really important. And then Dawn, maybe I'll hold out on surveys. Do we have any questions or comments right now we can help answer?
Yeah, we do definitely have some questions happening.
I'm back. Thank you for hiding right through the slides.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I'll go ahead and hide the slides. So.
Where did you go?
I'll come back.
Feel alone. Oh, there we are.
All right. So I'm going to try to group these kind of by topic. So we have JR asking if you're able to do our own dirt work after the stakeout when they're out of level to kind of reduce that foundation cost. And then after dirt work is done, can the stakeout crew come back out?
So that we've had folks do that in the past. It's not something we really recommend. And the reason for that is what we have found a lot of times is customers will end up putting the house in a hole. So what you don't want to do, if it's just like at the top of a hill and it goes off of one side, that might be kind of easy. You kind of flatten the top of the hill. That's rarely the case. Typically, the property is, my hands are too wide. Property is sloping, and you're going to cut over here. And when you do that, it could end up creating a drainage issue because if you can't get the water to flow away from the house, you're going to have a problem. So in some cases, we've seen customers do that. And over time, as you get some erosion or they landscape or things like that, we see water coming in onto the porch or water coming into the garage, some of those lower portions of the home. So it would be a really specific case, JR, that we let somebody do that. We typically don't advise that they do that, but there are some specific cases where that could be done to save some money. It makes sense.
Okay. And then Wade is asking, how can he know if he'll need dirt work done for the pad so that he can account for it in his final loan? He's heard of people needing as much as $30,000 worth of fill to make a pad. That can happen. That has happened. So the good news is with Tilson is we won't start construction on this home until we know exactly what it's going to cost to do any kind of site prep. Everything's going to be accounted for before we ever drive a nail. And you'll sign off on if there are any additional charges, pad fees, anything like that. You have to agree to them. It's not just something that we can sneak in there. So a lot of people confuse change orders with just builder slip them in there and you got to pay it. Change orders have to be signed off on by both parties. It's the only way that you can amend the agreement. And so before we ever go out to your property to start construction, and remember with us, you're not closing this loan until the house is finished. So from the time that you initiate your agreement to the time you close on that loan, could be 10, 12 months, maybe longer. So you're not having any payments for a year in a lot of cases. But we will not start, and you'll know the exact total loan amount before we ever start construction. So we do the stakeout, and that's how we get bids. If there has to be a pad, like if you're below the floodplain and we need to raise it above that, or if it's just extremely at a level where we have to build a pad that's outside of our tolerances that we already allow, because we account for a lot of it already in the base price. So then we'll have that bid. We'll present you with the bid, and it's up to you if you want to go or don't go. But luckily you aren't closing on a construction loan. However, you would have to close on that construction loan up front and start making those payments. Then you're kind of trapped. Whereas with ours, you're not closing until the house is finished. So not a big danger for us, Wade. Great question. Okay, great. Jabo is asking about in counties where the property owner has to file the permits. Do all the owners on the land need to sign the permit applications, or is just one signature going to be
typically enough? One signature is enough. Typically one's enough. Now, if it's like an entity, like an LLC or something, then we'll need to have the art officers of that, and the probably the articles of incorporation go along with it. But that's pretty rare. But usually just one owner is enough. Okay.
And then we have some general Tilson questions. Nancy is curious if we can build her plans.
Let us take a look at the plans. So without seeing them, I don't know for sure, Nancy, but we certainly build custom homes from people's plans. So
okay, great. And then Don is asking if they can do their own floors in their home.
That is actually something that one of the few things that we do allow. It does have to be done prior to closing, so it can't be something done after the fact. We want to know exactly what you'll be using for several reasons. One, we want to be sure that it's something that, we got door jams and different things like that going to be going on. We want to be sure all that makes sense. If we need to drop any foundation, things like that, we need to know. And plus, we can maybe give you some pointers on when it's going to be installed to save you money in the long run. So.
Okay, great. And then Jen and Ray are curious if you have any idea how many homes we have under construction right now.
I actually don't have that number handy, but a few.
just a couple.
But no more than we can handle, for sure.
All right. And then Nancy is asking, how far in advance should we get these documents taken care of?
Great question, Nancy. So the sooner the better, because some of them take a long time. Sometimes deeds, right now surveyors are backed up 6, 7, 8 weeks in a lot of cases. There's a lot of refinances going on, and those affect all appraisals. When you go through a mortgage company, you have to have an appraisal done. Ours are the same way. So appraisers are kind of backed up because everybody's refinancing because the rates are low. Surveyors are having to go out and get new final surveys done for those refinances. So that's now. That being said, some of the stuff's being done while we're doing the plans and the color selections and stakeout and permitting and all that. So, but there's never too soon to take care of your paperwork.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I am going to put the slideshow back up for you, and then we will get the rest of the questions.
Cool. Yeah. So speaking of survey, that's a great segue, Dawn. Thank you.
That's great.
Man, it's like she does this for a living. It's amazing. So boundary survey. That's actually it's a industry term. There are some folks who call it an ALTA, A-L-T-A survey. I won't go into all the acronyms, what they mean, but basically you want a boundary survey with all of your corner pins located and flagged. Shows the building lines. So we were looking at one here. And what we're looking at is this is a triangular shaped lot, which is not uncommon. And you've got a concrete showing a gravel drive here, but the actual dark line here is the property line. Do you see these little dotted lines inside there? And what those are those utility easements or building lines, but basically they're areas on top of which you cannot place permanent structure, house, pool, garage, outbuildings. Driveways don't count. Typically driveways can go over building lines. They obviously can't go over property lines because that's someone else's property, but they can go over these lines because they're not considered permanent structure. In other words, they can be torn up pretty easily if someone has to do utilities or board underneath, whereas a slab on a house, that's very expensive to do that. So, but this is a really good survey. It shows the dimensions of the property. It shows the dimensions of the easements, gives us a really good idea, and the owner a really good idea of exactly where this house can go. So let's say this is a half-acre lot. Well, just because it's a half-acre lot doesn't mean you have the full 21,000 square feet on which you can build house. So really, when you look at this, the only place we could actually build house on this is inside this very inner dotted line, which is perfectly fine. It's more than enough room to build a house, but it's just good to know how much room are we actually working with, and only an RPLS or registered professional land surveyor can do one of these. So great something to have there. Is going to be really, really necessary, particularly things not to trust for property lines: neighbors, fences. Sometimes these are paths of least resistance. So only a surveyor who's flagging the corners can actually tell you exactly where the property lines are, where the corners are. Another really important one is deed restrictions, something to consider. There are covenants. So when these subdivisions are recorded and platted, that they're typically done with restrictions on them. And that's okay as long as we believe in some light restrictions. And again, if you don't like the restrictions, don't buy the land, don't move in there. But these are typically done to protect property values. So, you don't want to build a nice, beautiful home like this LaSalle we're showing here, and then have your neighbor put a pig farm in next door, or a shooting range or something like that. Or maybe you do want to have a shooting range. I don't know. But that's what the restrictions are in place for, is to maintain the property values. Like, hey, look, we're going to all agree to build some decent homes in here of a certain minimum. We're not going to have, mobile homes. We're not going to have an RV park next door. We're not going to have a, Airbnb or whatever the restrictions happen to be. But these are important because they will drive some of the minimums of what we're going to have to build for you. We can't really deviate from these restrictions unless we're given a variance, and that is a process. It can be a long process to go through with a POA or an ACC, but it is something. So review these. Your sales consultant will review them with you. Our back office is going to review them. The title company is going to review them. So we're gonna look to make sure that we're meeting these deed restrictions. And just because board members change, POA board members change, and sometimes the rules change. All right. Now we're going to talk utilities. We need a couple of things out there. And again, these are things that would have been done already if you were in a subdivision. And in some cases, they are done when we show up on a customer's land. But this is, trying to capture the whole gamut for folks who are building on complete and total virgin land, never been a spade of dirt turned on it by human hands, okay? Which is where we like to do it the most. So utilities, you got power. We're going to need power, obviously. We're going to need some type of water source, either a meter, and we're going to need some way to dispose of the wastewater, whether it's a septic or sewer system. So power, it can be overhead, it can be underground, but we are going to need to determine who's providing the power and where they're going to connect. And that is driven by where it is. So if you've only ever lived in kind of a city or subdivision situation and you've had that kind of power to choose, so someone is still responsible for the lines where you are, usually Encore, TXU, NRG, or Centerpoint. Those are some of the big ones across the state of Texas. But as you get out into the more rural areas, you're typically going to be dealing with a co-op or a cooperative. in which case you actually become part owner. They pay a dividend and all that kind of good stuff. They were set up, eons ago for rural communities that, the big power companies, that wasn't profitable for them to come in and run power because they weren't going to make their money back because it costs money to do this work. So they're set up as entities where the local landowners kind of go in together as co-owners and set up a little company, and that's the power company. They work very similar. They're still regulated by the Public Utilities Commission here in Texas, but you'll need a meter rep out there, and they'll walk you through what the process is. It does vary from co-op to co-op, and they will be your power company. There's none of this power to choose stuff. Now, if you're in one of the CenterPoint or other areas, you still will get to choose ultimately who your bill comes from. But in these cases where you're doing a co-op, they will be sending you the bill. So it's Pedernales Electric Co-op or San Houston Electric Co-op or Guadalupe Valley Electric Co-op, a lot of the Houston Electric Co-op. So anyway, and again, post your questions in the chat. We'll answer those. So that's on power. We can answer questions about that. Now we got to have water. What is a house without running water? It's not much of a house. So we need either a water well, or you're going to have some type of public or community water system. What you're looking at the top picture there is a water well. That's a pressure tank, actually, of the well. The well itself goes here and goes down into the ground. That's the well. But the pressure tank up top is what you'll need to actually keep pressure on your pipes in your home. You can build a little shed around this if you want to. We've seen folks do that. But basically, this is where the water will come from, or you'll have a water meter, which you traditionally see kind of in the ground. It's a meter, it runs. They come and read the meter, and they send you a bill for the gallons of water that you've used. So in some cases, there are shared wells. We've seen that particularly on family land. But anyway, we can help walk you through how that works. And then now what do we do with the water that we're using in the house? It has to go somewhere, right? Most of our customers are not on a public sewer system, which is fine because we're very accustomed to working with septic system, or OSSF, on-site sewage facility. So basically it's its own kind of miniature sewage treatment plant. So what you're looking at here, you got public sewer here, and then down below where my head is a septic system. Thank you, Dawn, making me disappear. Just like David Copperfield she is. So this is a septic system. You got an aerator on top. This is an aerobic system. And yeah, most of our customers are going to, and you'll not need, these have to be permitted. Now, these are regulated by the TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and the county where you're building typically regulates the permitting process here. In fact, in almost all cases, at least that's what we hope. Because if they don't, then it's regulated in Austin, and that's a lot of hoops to jump through. But so we have to submit a design. A septic designer will design exactly how the septic is going to work on your property, because there's certain places it can't spray within the property line or close to the house, within your neighbor's well discharge area, things like that. It can't be there. So septic designer helps us lay that out, and we get a permit from the county, and then it's off to the races. So usually a 2 to 4 week process, depending on how long, but you do have to have a permit to construct a septic system. This one here is from Grimes County, Texas, an area we love near and dear. But anyway, they'll submit, we'll get that. And this is kind of one of those cases sometimes where you have to sign the application, or you have to sign an affidavit stating that you'll be spraying wastewater onto the surface. There's also conventional septic systems. So those are just gravity flow. And then finally on utilities is, if you are going to opt to have some type of gas, it's going to typically be natural gas or propane. And areas that have natural gas, there'll be a company that oversees that. Texas Gas, Unigas, a city perhaps. CenterPoint Energy does that. Encore does that. Otherwise, you'll be using some type of LP tank. And that tank can be above ground, or it can be buried, which you're seeing the picture here. And they put a little meter on top, so you like a fuel gauge, and as well as a way to fill that, and a regulator and all that kind of good stuff. So these tanks can be bought or they can be leased. It's totally up to the homeowner, and we can help you, of course, with this as well. Dawn, you want to pause there for questions and comments?
Sure thing.
Okay. Do we have questions stacking up, or has everyone left by now with this meaty topic?
We do. We have lots of questions. I'm trying to get you back up here. All right. So Jay Bo is asking, how early in the land buying process can a title search be done by the title company? And is there any specific title companies that we recommend?
It can be done as soon as you have a legal description. So all you need is a legal description of the property. lot and block or meets and bounds. You take that to the tile company and they can open title just like that. And we don't have any that we necessarily recommend. I mean, Capital Title does quite a bit of work. Providence Title does quite a bit of work. They're statewide, but typically, if you go down to the county courthouse on the square in any county, before you even get close, you'll start seeing a high concentration of bail bonds places and title companies. They do very different things, J-Bo. So be sure we walk
definitely go to the right one.
but you'll see a high concentration of title companies. Guarantee, it'll say abstract company or guarantee company or title company or something county title, and those are all the same animal. You cruise in there and give it title. In a lot of cases, you can email it in these days. Maybe even fax it.
I don't know. Maybe some of those outer counties you can do that.
Fax. What else?
Marjorie is asking about fireplaces and if they are a crazy extra cost. She'd like to have 2 in her home, 1 in the living room and 1 in the dining room. And then she's got a second question about septic issues and if we can help with those.
All right. So fireplaces, I don't know what crazy is. I mean, I have different definitions of crazy maybe than Dawn does.
Well, and it's going to depend upon what type of fireplace you want and, all of that.
Yeah. I mean, traditionally they're about, depending on where you're building, which climate zone you're in, they start at about, I guess either way, they start about $4,000 or $5,000 and go up to about $10,000, depending, because there's different types of fireplaces. So up to you if you decide that's crazy or not. Yeah. We'll fix septic issues. So Tilson is ourselves, we can't fix the septic, but we can certainly refer you to a registered sanitarian who's licensed by the state. So to work on, install, and design septic systems, you have to be licensed by the TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Okay. And it's typically done as a registered sanitarian, and they are authorized to do work on there. So we can help you. We can help square you away with somebody like that. And when you do buy one through us or anywhere in the state, you buy one new, put one new in, the state requires a 2-year maintenance agreement. So they're on the hook to come out there and maintain it for 2 years. So you're covered there. And they'll sell those maintenance agreements even on older ones.
Perfect. Keith is asking if a topo survey is needed.
Great question, Keith. So in most places we build, no, it is not. There are some cities that they do require a topographic survey. So what that is, folks, is it's a survey that shows the actual elevation of the property. 650 below sea level, 550, 450, 200. Okay. That's a topographical survey, and it's very rarely needed by any of our customers, but some cities in a few select subdivisions do require it.
Okay. Nancy is asking if they can get a printed list of all the things that they need to do ahead of time.
Nancy, I like your style.
Absolutely.
And the answer is we probably can. I would never want to prepare just a list of everything that could possibly be needed because it would fill the intranet. So what I'd recommend is setting an appointment with a consultant at one of our locations where you intend to be building, and they will be intimately familiar with what's required. Who to contact for culvert size, which county commissioner you would be speaking with, deeds. There's some biggies we need: deed, survey, title, deed restrictions, utility companies. That's a great way to start right there. And that's going to be 75 to 80% of everything we're going to need. And we can help you with the rest. But I do like your organizational style.
Absolutely. I'm a list girl myself. And they will absolutely, when you have your stakeout meeting with us, anything that you need to have done to the property, as well as anything that we need to do on our side, you're going to get a list at the end of that meeting so that you can just go and check off what you need to do.
Yes, because checking off apparently for a lot of folks is fun.
Yes. Sometimes you write extra stuff on your to-do list just so you can check it off. Yes. Make to-do list. Check.
Brush hair. Check.
Don is asking after Stakeout if they can bring in their own select fill for grading. Little concerned. He's worried about what we might charge him extra for the dirt.
Oh yeah, Don, I'm gonna hate to break it to you, brother. There is not a lot of money in dirt. There's not a lot of money in dirt or diesel. That's so yeah. No, I recommend against that because it's not going to be compacted. The engineer is going to want it to be compacted to a certain percentage, or they're going to want it to be mixed with the soil that's in place, which is a very expensive process. So, and yeah, it's not, we don't bring in select fill to every job. No, we don't build dirt pads on every single job. A lot of jobs don't need it. And so we'll fill the forms with select fill, but that's included in the price of the foundation anyway. Like there's no extra for that. And that's in the Gulf Coast and the North Texas areas. In the Hill Country, a lot of times we sandbag the fill, so because it's a lot taller forms, so we don't want the fill to kind of wash out. So we'll actually the sand itself is bagged, and then they stack those bags kind of like feed sacks, and that's what forms the forms for the beams. So yeah, not something you probably would need to be doing, Don, honestly.
Okay.
Good question.
Randa is asking, do tree stumps and saplings need to be removed from the area, or will that be removed during foundation prep?
So those need to be removed prior to. So if we're doing the clearing, we'll have it moved out of there if that's something that you've contracted us to do. And if not, yeah, basically the organic material apart from grass. The grass obviously is going to be scraped off. We do that, but any other kind of organic, anything that could rot and leave a cavity is a good way to think about that. So a tree stump's a great example. If that tree stump were left there in place and over time, it's going to obviously rot and that will create a cavity, a void underneath your foundation. And that's not a situation that we want. So the stump would need to be pulled out. And then, yeah, saplings is, I'm trying to think. Yeah, get those out of there. That'd be just, if it's a tree that you can't pull out, dig it out or have it removed with a dozer or skid steer or something. And again, we can get bids to have that done as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Don is asking along the lines of doing their own floors. He's saying he was told that no money would be taken off because floors are already included, and has a question about acid stained floors and whether we warranty them.
Yeah, so on the floors, what we do is we actually, instead of taking money off the price, we pay you as the contractor. So you become the contractor. Now, what you choose to do with that money is your business, but we leave the money in the contract. Well, why is that? Why don't you just take the money off? Great question. I'm glad you asked, Dawn. So the reason is because the floors go in at the very end, right? I mean, ideally that's the last because we don't want people walking on them, messing them up, traipsing across them, scratching them. I don't want dirty feet on my carpet. So let's say, heaven forbid, that sometime during when you decided that you want to do your own floors and when it's actually time to do it, something happened, something changed. You got a promotion at work and now you're traveling 90% of the time, or heaven forbid something bad happened. You had an accident and you can't work or can't physically do it, or the company you were going to have do it goes out of business. That money is still in the contract where Tilson can go pay a contractor to get the floors put in for you. That's
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
You go, we take the money out of the contract, and then those very things happen that I just spoke about. And in 88 years, we've seen a lot of weird stuff happen. And now it's like, well, I can't do the floors. I need y'all to do the floors. We're like, yeah, so we need the money to do the floors. And like, yeah, it's not there. The guy took it and run. He went to Vegas and put it all on a roulette wheel and it's gone. So we leave the money in there so that if something happens there, the floors can still be installed. And then lastly, why don't we warrant acid stain floors? Because they don't last. They vary in color significantly. They wear more than like a tile or a wood or a luxury vinyl plank. They have wear patterns in them, kind of like carpet. So there's not really a way to warrant acid stained floors. They're not gonna last from a finish standpoint like traditional floors.
Okay. Is that another word for stained concrete?
It is, yeah.
Or is that okay?
Yeah, stained concrete.
All right, that makes sense.
It's pretty though.
Yeah, it's very pretty. Rebecca's asking if we will undertake drainage changes on their lot as part of the dirt work with HOA and county approval, or would that need to be done before we start a stakeout plan?
Yeah, no, we are going to help take care of that. So part of our responsibility is we have to establish positive drainage away from the foundation, a minimum of 10 feet all the way around. And then it is your responsibility to maintain that. So that makes sense. So, and anyway, yeah.
Keep that in mind with any landscaping you add, that we still want to keep the drainage away from the house. Don't build up. Yeah,
landscaping, pools, outbuildings, things like that. Be careful about putting them too close to the house or draining water towards the house. We want to minimize the chance for any kind of foundation issues.
Great. Let's see. trying to look. I can see that some of these Nick and Kelsey have already answered, so I'm going to skip them just in the interest of time. But if you need more clarification, let us know.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Roddy is saying that the property that they're building on with Tilson was at one time 2 lots. When the survey was done, it turns out there was a utility easement between the 2 lots, even though it's appraised as 1 lot for tax purposes. So then they had to replat. Guys, we're learning lots of things today, which involves a new survey and plat work that has to be submitted to the county commissioner's court for a public hearing and approval. So guys, one of the exciting, this was just Roddy telling his story of the exciting adventures that we see in Built on Your Lot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, that's why the title is so important, and the survey. Like you said, there's a utility going right down the middle. They will not let you build on top of that utility easement until that easement is removed. Well, the only way to remove it is you have to consolidate those lots, which a lot of counties will require replat. Replats have to go before the county commissioner. They notify the public hearing. Are you cool with us changing this publicly, recorded subdivision into one? Even though it's just 2 lots going to 1, it seems like ridiculous, but that's
a subdivision.
That's a subdivision. Yeah.
Interesting.
You'll have Don Dantzler Estates.
Nice. I always wanted that. Sashi is asking if she needs to use our financing.
Well, we don't actually have our own financing, so no, you do not. We work closely with 2 mortgage companies in particular. We have no interest in them whatsoever financially or otherwise, and we recommend them simply because it's a smoother process because they do build on your lot all the time. If you have another one that you're wanting to use, certainly we work with outside lenders. It's typically a much slower process, but we do it. There are a few that we work with fairly normally, but if you are leaning towards one of the Bank of America, the Wells Fargo,
anything with a .com, please.
Anything with
don't.
a .com, don't even bother. They're not going to speak build on your land. So anyway, you don't have to use you use whatever financing that you wish.
Yeah, and all of those companies that Eric's talking about are going to be doing your final 30-year, 15, 20, whatever year mortgage. I know some people get a little bit confused with the Easy Buy program. It's not, that's our own thing. Like, it's not the financing. It's not a construction loan. It's not any of that. That's us paying to build your house. So the financing, when we talk about you needing financing, we're talking about your final mortgage.
The final mortgage. Yeah, great point, Dawn. Thank you.
Yeah. Rebecca is asking if a survey and appraisal were done to buy the land, how long are they good for without having to have them repeated?
Yeah, the survey is typically good for a pretty good amount of time. I would usually at least 3 to 5 years is probably just fine. And then the appraisal, it's usually good for about 180 days, but they're going to do a different appraisal anyway based on home, an improved land. So the appraisal won't be used at all, but the survey certainly could be.
Yeah. Now, Carmel has a survey from 2006 that we're probably going to need to revisit then.
Yeah, we take a look at it and see. It would also, Carmel, what also might matter is, can the corner pin still be located? So 2006 was like 14 years ago. I don't know what area we're talking about, but if it's deep East Texas and it hadn't been touched in 14 years, it's going to be a struggle to find those. If it's, out in the hill country where it's a rock, probably still a rock. So it's going to depend. The main thing will be, can we still find the corner pins? Has anything else changed? Like in Mr. Atkins' example earlier, was there a replat done somewhere that changed that in the last 14 years? So we can check that out. Okay. Great question. Thanks, Carmel.
Great. Maria is curious what the most expensive part of building a home is.
Oh, well, the one single thing, probably the foundation. Mm-hmm. Probably the foundation. Lumber's, although the frame is approaching right now. With the price of lumber.
They're doing this with the price of lumber.
Lumber is giving the foundation a run for its money. But typically the foundation, the site prep work, the slab, the post-hinge cabling, the labor to do that is traditionally the single most expensive thing. But in some cases, the frame, you get a big enough house, that frame right now is the most expensive part.
Okay, that makes sense. Jabo is asking if there's a land slope maximum we recommend trying to stay under when shopping for a build site.
Not really, Jabo. I mean, I wouldn't want to build anything. We've built up to 13 feet out of level before. That's pretty steep. And because we're talking about the footprint of the home, so obviously it's going to cost more money to do something like that. Most people fall with somewhere within 2 to 5 feet of out of level, and so that's kind of what to shoot for maybe. But if you like the land.
All righty. Laura is saying that she'd like to build a barn or barn dominium prior to the house start. Can we advise on septic location so that it's in the right spot for a future build?
We can, yeah, we can, yeah. If you're on a contract with us, we'll come out there and take a look at it and, figure out kind of where the house is going to be roughly, figure out where the barn dominium is going to be. And then, but even a septic designer can help you do that as well. If you're doing it like years and years before you're wanting to build, just kind of let them know kind of what your vision is, future planning wise. Like, hey, I know I want a barn dominium here or barn here. Eventually going to put a house here with a levee that looks out onto a pond over there. Where should my septic go? And they can walk you through that.
Okay. Tina is asking if they can get someone else to build the septic tank.
Yes, of course. Yeah, as long as they're licensed and they get the county approval, they're good to go. That's right. Going back to Don's comment, not a lot of money in septic systems. That's not what we're looking to make money.
Absolutely. So. All right. Helen is asking, she's saying they are also replotting their land and the county is asking for a minimum slab elevation analysis completed by a civil engineer. Is that something that we can do?
Your county is quite uppity. But so we don't technically have any civil engineers on our. So if they say civil engineer, we want to be sure if they're talking about an actual licensed engineer, like with a PE stamp, professional engineer stamp. If that's the case, then you're going to have to get an engineering firm to do that. We have them that we can put you in contact with that we work with regularly. But minimum slab elevation, now what they're typically asking for is they want to make sure that you're going to have they usually have a base flood elevation that they're looking to meet because the county is ultimately accountable to FEMA for maintaining flood control. So a disaster comes in, floods an area, that area asks for disaster funds from FEMA. FEMA doles out money. FEMA, before they dole out money, they're going to want to say, hey, are you even bothering making sure that people aren't actually building below the floodplain before you issue these permits? Or you just give them permits away willy-nilly? So that's kind of the East Texas redneck version of what they're asking for, but they're kind of wanting to make sure that you're holding them to some kind of minimum slab elevation. So, and really a surveyor could do that, but if the county says they want an engineer to do it, then they want an engineer to do it. And they're going to want that. What they want is that stamp. They want somebody they can hold accountable.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to say in the interest of time, why don't we go ahead and go back into the presentation just so we can make sure we get through it. And guys, we'll bring your questions back up in a little bit.
These videos up.
Maybe.
You guys up for a 4-hour one?
I was not expecting this to be as popular as it is.
People, I got a kids volleyball game, but it's not for a couple of hours. Then it's go time.
I do have a one-to-one, but Carolyn is probably watching. So
okay.
If I'm
I don't know our Tilton family that's out there watching. We know we got some Tilton family out there watching.
Hi, everyone.
All right, all-weather access. We're going to talk about this, and we will get back to your questions. Helen, thank you for asking. All-weather access, well, we got to have a way to get onto the property. So we've got some really beautiful examples here. Our good buddy Dave Yelovic shot this one for us, obviously with his drone. So anyway, this is, being able to get to the site, and we're not talking about just a pickup truck or a car, folks. We're talking about an 80,000-pound concrete truck or 40 or 50,000-pound dump truck. So something to consider. Culvert. All right, what is a culvert? A culvert is a big fancy word for a pipe in the ground through which water can flow. So you got a ditch that carries water away during a storm, and so when you put a driveway in the middle of that, obviously, if you didn't have a culvert or pipe here, it would become a dam, and that would be a problem. So we don't want to block water from flowing. We want to allow water to flow through. That's what a culvert is. The sizes are determined by typically your county precinct or the county's engineering office. And in a lot of cases, they do have to be permitted. They certainly have to be inspected before they can be covered up, so to make sure that the size is correct. So site planning and preparation. So Stakeout, that's a meeting that we're going to have out on the site. We're going to do a site plan, and then there's some site preparation that has to be done. Sometimes a customer doing, sometimes it's us doing. And so we're going to give some examples of that as we go. So what happens at this Stakeout meeting? We're sitting in a car, eating donuts, watching for bad guys? No. We are out there at the site, driving literally stakes in the ground, showing you where the corners of the property are going to be, corners of the home, are located. Going to show you kind of where the windows are. Here's where your front door is. We're making sure it doesn't encroach on any setbacks or property lines or building lines. We're going to shoot the grades with a transit at that time and see how out of level the site is. This is where we collect a lot of data, a lot of information. We do have to have the trees removed from the site to be able to do this accurately. So if you don't have that done yet, we might come out and just take a quick look, but we're not going to be able to tell you a whole lot if there's still a whole bunch of trees there. We will have to have those trees removed, which we can help you with. And you will leave this meeting with a to-do list. So don't worry, you'll have a list of things to do. But we measure electrical hookups, water hookups, and then from that, we devise this site plan that we're able to prove to the county, the city, or any type of architectural control committee or property owner association that we are, in fact, not encroaching on any building lines or utility easements, that we are fully in an area that we don't have to worry about. This is showing kind of the proposed septic spray field. It's showing all the various hookups, where the culvert's going to be located, the width of the drive. A lot of data shows the building lines that we're not encroaching on. And then after all that is done, in a lot of cases, that has to be approved before you can start full on clearing the site, but not always. And here we had a question earlier about the tree and stump and root removal. Yes, all that organic material you see back there needs to be out of there. So we got a 300 series Caterpillar excavator here. My favorite part, little thumb on it there, grabbing the trees, easy. It's nice. So, but yeah, we want to sure we get those out of the footprint of the home. And then we start doing some site work, some groundwork. And again, this is going to vary from place to place and from foundation need to foundation need. This will be based on the engineer's design. We got to, of course, create a level surface there for your foundation, and then make sure that water flows away on all sides. And then we do the actual fun part. So we can go set forms, and we can dig our beams and wrap our poly and pull our post-tension cables in there. These little wooden things you see here sticking up in various areas, those are called grade stakes. So those have lines on them marking where we can make sure that it's level. Going, I think I see Tom Homer. I think I see Tom out there. So then we pour your concrete, and it's off to the races as we begin construction. And that's actually where this particular seminar ends. And now, Dawn, we can answer some more questions. Dawn's quiet.
Every once in a while, I have to be quiet.
I could use that advice.
All righty, let me see where we left off with the questions. All right, so Kimberly closed on her land July 4th of this year.
Congratulations.
Yes, congrats. She has the
deed. Company was open on the 4th of July. Give me their name.
Yes, we're going to recommend that title company from now on.
After it on the 4th. Good for them.
She has the deed survey, title insurance, and everything that comes with it. Won't be building for 3 years. Is that paperwork still going to be good to use?
Paperwork's still good. The deed for sure. The survey most likely, as long as you don't change anything. And then on the title insurance, the title insurance is still good right now. If someone were to come make a claim, they probably won't use. You'll have to get another set when you close on your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
When you build a new home, you'll get a new title insurance policy for the amount of the home. The mortgage company is going to require a title policy for the amount of the loan, because whatever the title insurance policy is right now is probably just the amount of the land, and that's not going to be enough to cover to make them whole if it were to come up. But yeah, it's still all good. They'll pull title insurance again as well, by the way, just to see, hey, did they refinance this land? You know, maybe you did that and there's a new lien on it, or maybe you had a metal building built and the metal building contractor put a lien on the property while you paid them. So things can happen in 3 years. Things can happen in 3 days. So
absolutely. So Colleen is asking, how much do we recommend they have underbrush if they aren't 100% sure on foundation placement due to slope? And then do we know an approximate
Great
cost?
question. Yeah, so that's a great question, Colleen. Thanks for asking. I would underbrush like a 100 by 100 at least area. If you don't know that, probably an acre. See if they'll underbrush an acre. If it's super, super thick, maybe 100 by 100, but probably an acre. And you're typically looking about $1,200 to $2,000 a day. And that's about what it would cost to do. It'd be about a day's work, about 8 hours work to underbrush an acre of land with a skid steer, with a forestry unit on it, mulcher on it.
Okay. Texan Jim Bob is asking if we install piers for foundations if necessary.
If the engineer calls for it, yes, sir, we will.
Okay. Keith is asking for the name of our financing partners.
Sure.
We work with CMG Financial and AMCAP Mortgage. And Kelsey, if you could please drop those links into the comments, we can go ahead and let you go to their websites directly and work with them. And like Eric said, we like them because we're familiar with them. They know what's going to happen with the built on your lot process, and they understand why we're asking for an upfront appraisal.
That's right.
Let's see. Nancy thinks the most expensive part for her is going to be the kitchen cabinets.
Yes, it can. You have to get pretty wild and crazy to outprice the foundation, but it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible. There's some beautiful cabinetry out there.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Joe is saying when he talked to a consultant, he was told that they needed to provide gravel on the land so the construction team can have access. They said either Tilson can do it or they can do it themselves. What is the typical cost and how do they figure out where to put it?
Yeah, so for a construction drive, Joe, you're typically looking about, I mean, depending on how far, I really don't know how far off the road that you are. So, you know, I would typically start that at about the $1,500 range, but it could be up to $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 depending on how far you're going. You know, I don't know if you're 50 feet off the road or 500 feet off the road. And then, yes, Tilson can do it. You would need to, but you wouldn't need to, you would know at the stakeout appointment, because that's where we're going to stake where the home is and pin it down where it's going to be on the actual land. And then from that point, we can get bids or you can get bids from contractors in the area to do a construction drive. And kudos to your sales consultant for telling you have to have that for construction. You hear that, construction folks? We actually do tell customers that you have to have. And
just a reminder, where the construction drive is does not need to be where your permanent drive is.
It's true. It's true. Doesn't have to be. Yeah, doesn't have to be. But it can be.
Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't have to. So you have another plan in mind. Let's see. Yeah, Colleen's excited. They're trying to clear as little as possible so they can keep their trees. So a lot of our customers.
It's a lot of work.
Jay is asking if we're building in an area we were told does not subscribe to FEMA. Is that a problem?
Well, I'm not sure of that area. It would be. I mean, that would be new to me, Jay. If there's an area that hasn't been designated by FEMA as some type of flood zone, there's Zone A, Zone AE, Zone C, Zone X. I don't know of any places that aren't zoned in some way by FEMA. So I would be skeptical about that. There are companies out there, American Flood Research, AFR, American Flood Research. You can send an inquiry to them. I think it's like $5, and they'll tell you exactly what zone it is according to the FEMA maps. There's also, FEMA has a website. You can actually just search in a search engine, FEMA map address, and it'll take you to a link, and you can actually type in the nearest address or maybe the road that you're on, not your exact address if you don't have one yet, and it'll take you to a digital map, and it'll show you what the different zones are, and that costs nothing.
Yeah, maybe ask who's saying they don't subscribe to FEMA, what they actually mean by that, because it sounds like maybe they mean something different.
I'm confused. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm confused by that too, because I'm with you. I think they map the whole country. Vanessa's asking how long after you sign the contract with Tilson and get approved with a lender does it take for the stakeout to be scheduled?
Vanessa, that's a great question, because right now we are, of course, running full throttle, trying to help everybody out. That we've had a lot of folks come to us that want to get out of towns. So we have added on, that I know of, probably 3 stakeout superintendents in the last 45 days. So it's typically about 2 to 4 weeks. And sometimes in some areas it's taking as long as 5 or 6 weeks. But if you haven't heard from one in at least 2 or 3 weeks, give your sales consultant a call, and we'll get that moved along, because you should at least had a contact by now and got it scheduled.
All right. Nancy is asking if we can do the tree root removal, or does she need to do that?
Yeah, we can get you a bid on that, Nancy. So it's not going to be included in the base price of the homes that you're seeing on the internet, because we don't know if it's 1 tree or 25 trees.
Or how big the trees are.
Or how big the trees are, yeah. But once we do the agreement, we come out there and we'll get you a bid on getting trees removed.
Okay, perfect. Courtney is asking, once they have their building pad ready, how long is expected for building?
Construction is about 190 to 225 days. So that's about how long construction is taking. In some cases, it's taking as little as 6 months, 180 days. But typically, I'd tell people 190 to 220, get you real close.
Okay. Stasia is asking what the initial investment is to get started with Tilson. She's already bought her land.
Oh, well, then you've made the largest part of the initial investment because that's all we require. And then we require a $1,500 non-refundable deposit. And that actually goes towards closing. So
Wonderful.
That's it.
Becky is asking, they've already met with a consultant at one location and would like to switch to the location closer to the area where they're building. Is that okay?
Becky, it's wherever you feel most comfortable. The only time that gets a little bit sticky is if you've already done an agreement, you've already started a contract with someone somewhere. That starts to get a little tricky because we don't want to have any information that doesn't get transferred over. So we'd want to get some management involved in a situation like that. But if we're just talking about from a prospecting perspective, you haven't done a contract yet, whatever you want to do is totally up to you. I mean, the pricing is the same no matter where you go. It's all owned by the same family no matter where you go. The selections are the same no matter where you go. So
yeah, the only thing to keep in mind is that where you sign is where you will go for plan approval and for your design selection. So you're going to make a few trips there, make sure it's a location that's convenient to where you live right now. It doesn't necessarily need to be close to where you're building.
Yeah, that's right.
Marlon is asking if they can do their own custom closet.
So yeah, we can delete the shelving in it if you want to do that, and you can put whatever kind of closet you want to in there.
Okay. Lupe is asking how wide does the access road need to be for the trucks coming and going on that construction drive?
At least 12 feet on the actual road part. And I would say at where it meets the road, it's simply going to flare out no less than 16. I'd really prefer to see 20. Most counties would prefer to see 20 feet because as a truck is pulling in with a trailer behind it, it's kind of making that.
Got to make that curve.
That's got to make that turn. So I would say about 20 feet wide at the road, at the culvert, and then it can neck down to 12.
Okay. Nancy is asking if they should wait on putting in culverts until their stakeout meeting. I
would, yeah. That way you have a better idea of exactly where the house is going to sit, where the garage is going to be, and kind of your vision of where the driveway is going to come in. So I'm not going to talk with my hands on Facebook. That doesn't make any sense.
I do it too.
I'm sorry, folks. Anyway, yeah, I would wait till after the stakeout appointment to have the culverts installed. That way, what you don't want to do is put it installed and be like, man, I wish it was 4 feet over there. Because it's a big undertaking to move a culvert.
Yeah. So Carmel is living overseas and is asking if they can start the contract process online and schedule the stakeout meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. We have a couple customers now that we've been working with that they're not overseas, but they're in California, so close enough.
That's overseas.
And yeah, we've done everything online. So. All right, Laura is saying, looking at floor plans, we used to provide width and depth dimensions for each home, and she doesn't see it now. Is it something we can put back, or is it something to just contact us for? Just reach out to us. We can give you that information. We removed it because there just weren't a lot of people who were using it, so we were just trying to kind of clean up the interface. But yeah,
also,
if you're looking,
options change it. That's another reason why we pulled it.
Say what?
When you start doing the custom options, it changes it, which is another reason why we pulled it.
Yeah. That's going to mess up everything. So yeah, you can just reach out whichever plan, or if you have a limitation, we can help you figure out which plan would work best.
Great question, Laura. Great feedback to our marketing team.
Thank you, Laura. James is asking, so it looks like I will be able to build our own pad for our house, according to JR in San Marcos. When will I get involved with your engineers after geotech comes to the land or before a foundation plan is made? Do I need to have my own geotech done before or after my stakeout, or not at all?
Yeah, don't get your own geotech done. We'll have that done, and we'll probably have reach out to Junior and make sure everything is copacetic. So if the maybe you're a contractor and you've got the pad and the proper lifts and the proper compaction test tested to standard Proctor, there will have to be testing done on where the dirt's coming from. So I'm sure you'll talk all about that. So
great.
It'll be before we'll do the foundation plan, assuming that the pad's going to be there. That's how that'll go.
Okay. Amy is asking if we can build an RV garage.
We have, Amy. Yes, we have done that.
Great. Kimberly's asking on the closets, can we customize what's going inside those closets to what she wants?
We did. I just checked in a couple files that the San Marcos office sold, and they're doing all kinds of like cabinet vanity customizations in closets and drawer pullouts and places for shoes and yeah, I had no idea what all we could do to closets or what people were willing to do to closets. But apparently, yes, Kimberly, apparently we can.
Exciting. All right. We've got more from James. So he's got a house on a slope, so it has to be excavated, filled because it's more than 18 inches out of level. So would we have engineers' plans or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we build the 18 inch out of level all the time, so I think there might be a disconnect, maybe on our end, a misunderstanding of from us, maybe from me, but because 18 inch out of level is no big deal. We build to that all the time.
Okay.
We wouldn't need to do a pad whatsoever, but yeah, we'd want to. Yeah, you need to reach out. We need to set up an appointment with Junior specifically. That's not always something we'll be able to handle on the Facebook Live. Unfortunately, I don't have enough information.
Okay.
18 inch level, I'll build that all day long without a pad.
Okay, guys. So from what I'm seeing, that was our last question. So if I haven't answered it, you got, last call on questions.
Last call on questions. We want to help you.
Kind of doing a scan real quick to see if there were any I missed.
Yeah, I got some that, they got their land surveyed 20 years ago. Would it still be good? I'd probably want to get a new survey after 20 years.
Yeah, after 20 years, you're going to want a new one.
Yep.
I'm seeing a couple on YouTube that didn't come through. Adrian is asking if the property has been staked and you decide you want to move to another location, is there a charge to restake?
There's not a charge to restake. It just costs time. Okay. It'll have to go back in line, but that's okay. We want to get it where you want it. I had another one from Amy. At least my land has a 20-foot easement right next to a detention pond that's already a paved road. It's an ideal place for a long driveway. So based on what you've said about easements, I would be allowed to build my driveway there. Without seeing the survey, Amy, I don't know for sure. We need to see the survey and exactly how that easement reads. And that easement will actually have a legal description that goes along with it. It's recorded at the county. We'd want to give that a read too. So.
Okay. And then Robert is asking, how close would you prefer to have water or electricity available? He's going to be using a well.
Yeah, so the base price of all of our homes includes 50 feet of electrical and water hookups. So if you're within 50 feet, you're good. And then beyond that, depending on where you're building, we have a price per lineal foot to hook that up. I got another one here from Crystal and Derek. If we live in a mobile home and have an existing septic system, can we use this? The answer is that'll be up to
maybe.
The answer is maybe. It's up to the county actually. So we have to get a registered sanitarian to make sure that it's going to service the new home that you're building from a just a gallons per day perspective. And then also we'd want to look at the fall. We have to be in a fall from the new home going to the existing septic systems. I say that because mobile homes are typically up 30 or so inches in the air. And so sometimes they have more fall than a house built on a slab would have. So, and then also they said, is there extra charge for this to be determined? Only if we have to put a lift station in or a grinder pump to get it to go uphill. When we had this system put in, we had it bigger. So it sounds like you planned for the house. So you're probably going to be okay, but without the engineer or the county giving their blessing, that's when we'll know for sure.
Okay. All right. Courtney's saying she already owns a small older house and the land. Can we help with the demolition and then proceed with a full build?
Yeah, we can certainly put you in contact with contractors that will do the demolition. Yeah, we've done that and it's all over the state. Okay.
And then Jabo is asking for a ballpark min-max price on culverts.
Jabo, there's no way to be able to get that. It varies too much from county to county and from dimension to dimension. So, 12-inch culvert versus a 36-inch culvert. And yeah, I don't have a range for that. Because some require it be covered with stabilized sand, some require it be covered with road base, some require it be covered with select fill and then road base on top of that. So it's going to be very, very specific to the exact location, not just the county, but the precinct there.
Okay. And then Michael is asking if the seller of the lot doesn't have a boundary survey, how does the buyer get one?
I would put it in the offer. If I were buying that property and I had not bought it yet, when I was writing the offer up, I would say there's a place on the contract that your real estate agent can fill out for you before you sign it that says new survey, yes or no, who's providing it, seller or buyer. Seller provides a survey, and I would also say seller provides it and pays for a title policy. But I'm not your agent. But that's what I would do if I were making an offer today on a piece of property. I would have the seller provide the survey and have the seller pay for the title policy.
Okay. Becky is asking, are the design centers at the locations the same size? Will there be more options to see and choose from at one location versus another?
So they are different sizes, but there's the locations. I mean, the selections are no different.
Mhm.
The options are the same everywhere you go. We got the same ones in the state.
Okay.
Great question, though.
Yeah, good question. And then Jay had some clarification on FEMA. So what his site on FEMA is saying that FEMA has not completed a study of Frio County unincorporated areas. Therefore, flood map has not been published.
So I would talk to your insurance agent then. If that's the case. Thanks for looking that up, Jay. I appreciate that. I learned something. I'm guessing that's somewhere near the Sabinal or Frio Rivers, somewhere out Uvalde Way or somewhere, but maybe Utopia and or Concan. And I would talk to your insurance agent and say, hey, if we see this, what does this mean for
what do we do?
flood insurance? Because that's really what ultimately is driving. It's driving how much you're going to pay for homeowners insurance. And if you do or do not need flood insurance, that's really what that's all about.
Okay. Lizzie is asking at what point we need to get electricity out to the spot, and is the location decided at Stakeout?
Yeah, typically that's a great question, Lizzie. The location is decided at the Stakeout appointment. I would go ahead and make contact with the power company now. Go ahead and reach out to them. Sometimes they want an account set up beforehand. Sometimes they want to come out there before you meet with the builder out there, so they can get a kind of a survey of where's the nearest transformer, where's power going to be coming from. They go out there and take a look at all that. And sometimes they won't come out until after you've determined where it's going to go. So it varies by co-op to co-op, but go ahead and contact them now. Get a human being, get their phone number.
On the list.
Yep. And give that to us if you need to, and we can help with that as well.
Okay. All right.
Have we unearthed any other questions?
Yes. James is asking if he will receive a copy of the soil report done on the land.
We can. Yeah. If you want to do that. It's about 40 pages of, if you can't go to sleep tonight, break it out and read it.
Lisa is asking what the minimum dimensions are for an RV garage that we will build.
Oh, well, it would definitely need to be, I wouldn't build anything for an RV less than probably 12 or 15 feet wide, and certainly not less than 30 feet deep. And I don't know how tall your RV is, so it need a 10-foot door, 12-foot door, 14-foot door. So get us, so I guess the minimum I would say would be 12 by 30 by 12.
All right. Perfect.
They also make little campers that fold down flat like a pancake, and you fit that in your garage.
Ooh, that sounds fun. And so this question, if I purchase my own lighting fixtures, is the cost included in the contract even if I don't use the Tilson provided fixtures?
Yes, light fixtures are not going to be something that we'll install of the homeowners. We're gonna install our fixtures. If you want to remove them and put yours in, you may do that. But that's not something that we credit back. We have to provide the light fixtures in there. And as far as hanging yours, it's not something that we do because of the way the warranties work out and the way that the wiring is done. And we don't know where they came from or whose fault is it if they don't work or they quit working in the first year, or if they're damaged when they get put up, were they damaged when they showed up. So we like to use stuff that we can hold our contractors accountable for, which is why we do that. We also have 5 or 7 different levels of light fixtures that we have available. So
yeah, but if you're not seeing something that you want, ask. We can get. We might be able to get something from our vendor for you.
But yes, we do have customers that take ours down and put their own up, and they go on just happily ever after. It's fine.
Yep. All right, that is all the questions we have.
Again, that's all the questions.
We think. So, if we missed them, we do circle back and take another peek. So we'll try to answer.
We do. So thank y'all for staying tuned with this. We hope this was beneficial for you. We know it was a different type of presentation than normal. So we hope you got what you wanted. Let us know in the comments, guys. You're not going to hurt our feelings because we want these things to be informative to you. So we want to be sure that you're getting the information that you need to help make your decision and at least make a more educated decision. So we're grateful that you joined us. Dawn, thank you for putting this on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate all the hard work you put into these. Kelsey and Nick, thank you all. And thank you most especially to all you customers and prospective customers out there looking at us and doing business with us. Our family is grateful to you, and we're thankful for you. And so until next time, we genuinely hope to soon make you part of the Tilson family.